Hello, my beautiful creative souls, and welcome back to part 2 of my deck curation series. I did a previous video that got posted about going through my decks and deciding which ones that didn't really feel right anymore, and just talking myself through the beginning of that process. And since I recorded that video, I have gone through a lot of iterations of filming this second installment. It's been about a month, and I have some reflections I want to share with you. So the first portion of this video is just going to be me talking, and then the next portion is going to be showing you some decks. So if you'd like to skip ahead, I totally understand. But if you're going to stick around, grab a beverage and buckle up because we got places to go. If you're wondering why this plant is here, I just filmed a initiation ritual for my sanctuary members. So, and I really liked the setup we had going on, so I was going to leave it. But yeah, so decks. Where to begin? I really want to just give you a summary because here's the short and dirty of it. I've filmed this video, this second installment, at least 5 times, and each time was drastically different with kind of the same outcome, which was me just spending an hour trying to figure out what the F and how to do this. Because every angle that I approached this from didn't feel quite right. And that's how I really just kind of live my life. I live my life based on my intuition, and if something feels right, we do that. And if something feels right but kind of not hitting the mark all the way, then I revisit it and I revisit it and I revisit it until it feels right. And while that process I feel is very beneficial for me, it also does my head in a little bit. Because I spent at least 6 hours of filmed time going through this same process over and over again, and still leaving the thought process of going through the decks feeling like it was just so hard. And I couldn't understand why. So let me walk you through some of the different things that I did. So as I was going through, I tried to go at it from a lot of different angles. Like I said, I was looking at the decks and was like, oh, let's look at, how they read. Is it still speaking to me? What my relationship is with the deck. I tried just like going through it and being like, do I want to get rid of this? Did I outgrow it? There was a lot of analyzing and thinking and decision making to the point where I would just put myself in decision fatigue, right? Especially because the relationship with my decks is so complicated, right? They're all little mini friends that I've spent time with. And the last session that I had really ended up in a little bit of a breakthrough. And that session started by thinking about how I use and go through my books. It's related, I promise. So with my books, this is my bookshelf right behind me here. I'm really good at giving them away once I've finished them if I'm not going to read them. I've always been like that. I'm usually someone who doesn't have a huge problem with like getting rid of things. If they're no longer resonating with me, I'm not super sentimental or anything like that. There are a few items, of course, but I'm not very nostalgic and sentimental, so I don't usually have a problem with that. And if I'm not going to reread it, if it's not a reference book, I'm going to re-reference. It's very easy for me to give it away. When I lived closer to a town, for those of you who don't know, I live out in the middle of nowhere now, but when I lived closer to a town, we had a local library. And I used to just, if I was done with a book, I would drive it down to the local library next time I left my house with a little donation sticky note on it, and I would drop it in like the return box or whatever. So that was very easy for me. So I was thinking, like, why are my decks so different, right? And part of the thing that came up was, well, there is no end. There's no finished, right? There's no end of the book that you reach where you're like, am I going to reread this or not, right? There technically is no end unless the deck gets destroyed or lost or whatever. So that means that I have to choose the end for myself, which feels weird, right? Like, how do you say we're done? We've ended, which is part of the difficulty of it, right? And then as I was kind of speaking with my higher self, with my guides on this, I was like, you got to help me because I don't get this. And they gave me an analogy of a lottery ticket, which I thought was really clever. And they said, all these decks are like lottery tickets. And some of them are $2 winners. Some of them are $5 winners. Some of them you spent $50 on and you got, it was a dud, right? And when you play the lottery, right, you're exchanging your money for potential. And when you have that potential, right, you don't know what that potential is until you scratch it, until you take the time to actually like go over each of the little squares and like see what's underneath and really spend time with it. Now I know you can scratch a ticket very fast, so this isn't the best analogy, but basically, if we're thinking about the decks as the lottery ticket, I have a deck and I've exchanged for it. So I have an unscratched deck with unlimited potential, right? And I may scratch one little portion of it, right? I might just open it, look through the cards, and maybe read a page out of the guidebook. And over time, I scratch the whole card. And there has to be a point where I say my card is scratched and I need to cash it in, right? If I have a deck that I've scratched and it's a $2 winner, maybe, yeah, it's a cute deck. It's nice. It's fun, but it doesn't really offer much more than that. And then maybe it's like a $5 scratcher and I used it for a season, right? It was really fun. It gave me exactly what I needed during that season, but the season's over because, let's face it, $5 doesn't last very long, right? Definitely not in today's economy. And then, there's going to be the longer scratchers, right? Maybe I get like $100 scratcher and it serves me really well for a good time. And I like to come back to it every now and then and dip out of that scratcher. And then some of them are jackpots and you're like, oh my God, and you can just go back and use that deck anytime because it's like a wealth of knowledge and information and speaks your language and lets you buy fancy things, whatever. We're getting a little silly with it now, but I thought that was an interesting analogy and I wanted to share it. So after that led me down the rabbit hole of looking at my decks and defining like where we're at right now, right? I didn't do like the scratcher ticket thing, but I did look at each of their like personality and the way that they interact with me. So I took a little like mini post-it and stuck it on each one. And as I would take it out, you know, I would think about it, I would look at it, and I would say, okay, what's one like couple words or a phrase that I can use to describe how this deck works with me. So I had one that's like the Rose Oracle, which is like gentle expansion, it feels like. And then I have a deck that's the Starseed Oracle, and that one just, I wrote on the sticky note, like, feels like me, period. Like, and then I had another deck, and I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but it was like, feels dead, like, doesn't talk to me. Like, I feel nothing. And there was another deck that I wrote, pokes at old wounds, but doesn't offer anything nice to say after or something like that. And it was just, it's those like little different nuances that really got me thinking like, okay, if I have a deck that feels like nothing, feels like it's dead, and a deck that just like pokes at my old wounds and doesn't like give me some nice advice after, do I want that? Like, do I want that vibe? And my intention was to go through all of my decks and do that, but doing the exercise for the hour that I did do it felt like good enough. And unfortunately, I used some sticky notes that didn't have good sticky on them, so I can't even like go back and see what they were, but I got the lesson from the exercise, right? So moving through all of these different things, right? Looking at it through all of these different angles, where am I at now? Right? How am I going to decide now? And I don't know if I know the answer to that question. But I do know that while each deck holds unlimited potential, it is not my responsibility to wait around for that potential to reveal itself. But it is my responsibility to say, do I want to invest any more in this deck? Do I feel like this has been scratched? And yeah, that's it, I think. Because if I get into, do I like it? How does it read? Have I used it lately? For some reason, all of those things just, it sends me into this spiral, right? Of like unlimited potential. And there are decks, right, where I look at it and I'm like, I used this for a really long time. I was obsessed with it. I like the artwork. I have all these fun memories attached to it. And while I still look at it and enjoy it, I don't read with it. My ticket has been scratched and cashed in. And now I need to get rid of the physical piece of it that's still there, that's like cluttering up my space and making it so I can't breathe in this already scratched ticket world. If you're sick of that analogy, I apologize. Let me know if that like kind of works for you and tickles your brain too. But yeah, so this exercise is really based on feeling, and it's one of those things where I really need to be in the right headspace to do it. And I've actually found that the right headspace to do it is not when I feel like I need to make a decision about it, which is what I've been doing up until this point. I feel like the most productive way to do this is to do it when I don't care. And then to just be done with it. Because when I'm in that highly emotional state, right? When I'm in that moment of feeling like I need to make a decision, I get to swords about it. I get to 8 of swords about it. I get to 9 of swords about it. It's just like, like this whole experience has felt like a 10 of swords moment. And I'm ready to just like 8 of cups it and like walk the fuck away. Like, I need to complete this cycle, you know? And I'm not saying that my method, or even if I have a method at this point, is the right way, is the way for you to do this. But I hope that by me talking about it and sharing this with you, I'm going to spare you, like I said, the 6 hours of footage that I struggled through and just present you with this nice thought through thing of what I learned from all those times. But I hope that it helps you along your own journey. And of course, we're going to get into some of the decks because who doesn't like a good deck perv? And to be able to show you kind of some of the things that I'm moving along. But yeah, I think I want to approach this not from a stance of, do I want to keep or get rid of this, right? Can I decide if it's staying or going? Because I actually learned the other day that decide, the root of the word is to cut out. Like it's, and I'm like, that sounds violent, which may be why it's so hard, right? So instead of deciding what decks I'm going to cut out of my life, I want to decide what decks I am choosing to work with. Which decks am I choosing to spend my time with? Which decks am I choosing to allow to take up space in my home? Which decks am I choosing to have access to me? Which decks am I choosing to explore, to dive deeper into? And which decks am I choosing to allow, to claim that we've come to an end, that we have been scratched, that our potentiality has been finished, and that if there's a message, if there's a potential contained within a tarot or oracle deck, whatever that potential is, whatever that message is, whatever that nugget is that I would have quote unquote missed out on by not having that deck, I'm a mystical, magical, badass motherfucking human, okay? And if I need a message, it'll manifest whether I have a specific deck or not. So we're cutting that out of the equation. That was more of a pep talk for me than for you, but if you needed that for yourself as well, please feel free to take it. So let's make some friggin' choices. Let's choose, shall we? Let's choose. All right, here we are. So let's just lay the context for a second. I know this is going to be odd because I don't have my microphone and I'm holding the camera, but I just want to show you what I'm working with. So right now I have like my working decks out. This is like my little altar area. I've started going through decks in this new way that I've been talking about. So this is kind of the product of that, but I really want to do one final sweep with you as we go. So what I have here is, these are like instant keeps with a couple ifs tucked in the back. They're like favorites with some maybes. These are decks that I don't use all the time. Actually, I'm currently working with the Starman Tarot, so that's not a very good good way to say that. But there's like some seasonal decks back there, and decks that like I want to keep but I just don't use a lot. But I don't know, I'm still a little iffy on some of these, so again, I just want to go through them again. This bin is just absolutely full of the same like decks that I think I want to keep but I'm not sure about, and I put them in this bin to just cut down on the visual noise. I have one straggler over there. If I take you down under my desk, I have one bin. I used to have all of my decks in bins like this up on that shelf, but it just felt too cluttered. And this is like a lots of maybes, some ones that I think I'm gonna decide to get rid of, and just some like really annoyingly big decks. And then over here by the door, I have a bin of decks and books that I decided I was ready to get rid of. But even then, I find myself like, I don't know, going back and forth on a couple. So a lot of these are already listed in the shop, so I'm fine with that. But there are a couple I just want to like consider again, like this one. Excuse the other stuff that's set for Goodwill there. And then we're just gonna dirty little secret a couple other decks I have. So these 3 decks down here are ones that I pulled out of that giveaway bin. So we'll go through those again. This is like one of those covers, and I have one like sentimental deck that just like lives in there because I don't know what else to do with it. And then the final place I have decks is here in my nightstand, where I have 3 oracles, 2 that I'm definitely keeping. So the Rose Oracle, Oracle of the Mermaids, and then this Wisdom of the House of Night is literally just like a sentimental deck. I move it around saying, you know, I'm gonna use it or whatever, but it never happens. So we'll figure out what to do with that. I'd like to get a tarot deck to put in here, but just, yeah. This isn't a nightstand tour, but I have some lotion and like my annotating things and headphones and stuff. But anyway, those are where all my decks live. So, and a wild shadow here. So yeah, I just I don't think we'll get through all of them today, but I wanted to show you kind of what we're working with, and let's go through some of them. That's not gonna work. All right, so we're gonna start with this bin first. I'm not gonna be able to like get the whole thing in the shot like I was hoping, so I'm just gonna move this out of the way. And let's go, I guess. So you saw this in the first video, and I pulled it out. This was the Squid Cake Tarot Marseille. And I pulled it out. It's cute. I love it. Here's what I've learned, though. And quick side note. One thing that I forgot to mention when I was talking earlier about like the different ways that I've started to think about this is the fact that decks that are those lower value scratchers for me, continuing with that analogy, they're taking up valuable space that could be used, and resources, right? Space, resources, time, all of that fun stuff on decks that could be better for me. And I don't want that to turn into a permission slip of like cycling through decks because the grass is always greener on the other side kind of deal. But it is something that's definitely in the forefront of my mind. With that being said, I love this deck. It's fucking cute. It's the only Marseille I own. I love the way it talks to me. I love the illustrations. However, I never reached for it. And I was like, oh, maybe I don't reach for it because, you know, XYZ, I have too many decks. And I think that that's part of the reason. And when I realized how much I enjoyed the deck itself and the way it reads, I pulled it back out. But here's the thing. I pulled it out to use it the other night, and I cannot stand the cardstock. It's cardboardy and stiff, and I have very tiny hands. So it's very difficult for me to shuffle. Even though it's playing card size, it's all wrong. And I'm not someone who's a snob for cardstock, but if I'm gonna have like a ride or die every day kind of deck that I'm using a lot, I need the cardstock to feel good, because part of the experience for me is shuffling. So it pains me. I pulled it out, but it's going back up. It's going back up on the website to be adopted. Because while it's a 10, there could be another 100 out there that's waiting for me. So I'm going to let this one go again. Moving on, we have the Art Magic in this box. I was going to save this to pass on in a special project swap thing that I'm going to be part of, and I think I'm going to keep it possibly for that. But I also had some other ideas this morning of like, I'm one of those people where if it's in the box, I don't use it as much, and I know that's like super weird. So I'm wondering if I should just, because you don't really need the guidebook for this, I'm wondering if I should just tuck the cards like in one of my creative desk drawers so that I can just pull it out and like use it in that way. So I might try to do that. But if I decide to get rid of this, I already have a way that's moving on to a new home. I apologize if any of these like repeats are boring, but hopefully you can appreciate. I've filmed so many videos, again, like I said, for this series. I have no idea. So we're just treating everything like it's the first time. This deck, this is the Modern Love Tarot. And I actually have the box for this tucked into that ottoman thing that I showed you that had a sentimental deck in it. And I'm going to put the guidebook back in their box because I never use it. The reason I took this out of the box and put it in this bag was because, sorry, I had to pause, the neighbors are yelling, because, what was I saying? Oh, I don't really do like relationship readings. I don't do them for clients, really. It's just not my specialty, and I don't do them for myself. But so I took it out of the box because that felt too like that's not for me kind of thing. However, I do really like the images in this deck, and I like that there's a different take. It's very grounded, kind of like in this world, very practical. You can see like just kind of the everyday things with it. And I'm someone who, even though I don't do relationship readings, I do like to explore kind of the way I interact with different relationships in my life. So while on the surface this really isn't a deck for me, but like this Eight of Cups with her moving and like seeming so like that moment of moving where like you're excited for the new adventure, but you're like just really sad and like reminiscing about everything you're leaving behind. Like the cups everywhere tipped over. It's unique and interesting and provides a perspective that I don't generally have in other decks that I own. So this one's gonna stay. And I'm just gonna keep it in this, and I'm going to put that guidebook back in the box that's just like sitting in storage, and this should help cut down on the bulk a little, because look at this, look how thick this guidebook is. So, and yeah, enough explaining about that, Leanne. So this is staying. So I'm going to start a staying pile, a maybe / we'll see pile, and a going to be listed on the adopted section of my website. I have decks up there that I may not have shown already, because I'm just kind of putting them up as I decide. So definitely check that out, and you may get a sneak peek on video 3's content there. All right, continuing on with the box, I have this Rider-Waite tarot deck. These are really fun. I had a teal one I had in my bag for a long time that I've already passed on. These are from, I think it's Cards Craft Store on Etsy. And they just make all kinds of really fun Rider-Waite Smith decks with like different backgrounds and things. This deck is glossy and it's very thick. Again, I find it hard to shuffle with my hands. This is gonna have to go in the maybe pile because why are you giving me the heartbreak card? What's you bitch. It's throwing me with shade. Okay. I love my decks when they do this and my guides, and they're fantastic. It's my dark sense of humor. Anyway, they're just calling me out. Like, okay, look, like, we're actually a little heartbroken right now because you're holding on to some shit and you just need to walk away so you can build something new. Like, you want to have things that surround you that make you want to just like charge fucking forward. Like, we're entering a new era and we need to restore balance. So get off your little ass and just let the deck go. Oh, that was not a message for you, obviously. That was a message for me. All right, as much as this one is pretty and I like it, I guess we're walking away. And I'm really sad because I don't think you can get this print anymore. Or maybe you can. I have another one from them, which I'm not letting go of. I don't care how much sass it gives me. So we'll see if I pull it back out before it gets listed. But this one should be up on the site for a new home. Oh, in this box, I have the box for my Tarot of Haunted House, which almost looks brand new because I've literally never kept it in the box. It's always been out on my desk or out on my altar. And she just doesn't need to be in the box. Oh, I was like, why don't I break this down? It's because it's sealed. So I feel like this just needs to be put somewhere else to store. It could be cute to display at some point, but not in my little 500 square foot apartment. Okay, moving on. What else do we have in here? This is the Outdoors Oracle. I bought this deck for my husband. I found it on Etsy. And I bought a second copy because I thought it was really beautiful and I wanted to use it too. However, it's very odd. It's like an oracle deck that was made for the outdoorsman who like isn't super spiritual but just wants to like have fun. So backpacker, leaving a revered place. All right, well, I guess we're just gonna do readings for Leanne today. Tracking your shadow. Loss. Facing a costly affliction. And leaving a revered place. I can't even say that this doesn't work as a great oracle because, I mean, look at this, right? I don't know. This is one of those things where I'm like, it just needs to come out of its box. I don't like the tuck boxes. I really don't. It comes with this cute little guidebook. So, pursuing a growing opportunity. Okay, here's where that thing comes in. It's like, this is really cool. It's really pretty. I love the art. The art is amazing. Like, please take me here. You know? Like, this is definitely like, this is my outdoor woods. Like, this is where I live. But do I want to hold on to a maybe? Accepting the seeker's catch. Do I want to hold on to a maybe, or do I want to make room for something else? So that'll go in the goodbye pile. Okay, we have the Deep Place Oracle. This one's hard. So when I did my little sticky note exercise, and like I said, most of them fall off, but let me grab one. So like for instance, here's the Tarot de la Nuit. So I wrote like, oh, it emotionally calls me out, but it then gives me a hug. And there's definitely an element of like mystery and storytelling to it. So when I did this exercise with this deck, I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but something about it falling flat. And that makes me so sad because I love the art in this deck. I love the artist. I love Ray Serafina Barker and her work in general. So many of the images just speak to me. And yet, I don't know, for some reason I just have some disconnect with this deck. And it feels very flat when I draw cards from it. Like, I'm like, oh wow, sanctuary, like, that's such an amazing word. And like, I want to reach for that expansiveness, but there's something that just doesn't quite get through to me when I use this deck. However, I have some of her other decks, which, I mean, it's the same artwork style, but it just opens up my brain a little more, I guess. So this is one of those maybe decks where I'm like, I think I'm leaning towards passing it on and just being content with her other decks that I have. But I guess we're gonna stay together for a little while longer. Sometimes decks fall flat to me until it's like their moment to shine. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna keep this one and see where this takes us. I think part of me is also just like, she released the second edition where she added 3 cards, so my little heart just wants all the cards, but that's silly. So we're gonna keep this one. What else do we have? This is kind of like my catch-all bin. So I have the guidebook for the Ritual Tarot in here. I have the box for the Brian Froud Fairies Oracle, which is in another place. Oh, can we just talk about how awful these boxes are? I have, what else do I have in here? I have a collapsed box from a deck that I'm not gonna like use the box for, an extra pouch, and what is this? Oh, it's a journal that I started for Notoria, which is a deck I'm like, should I pull it back out of the giveaway? And not the giveaway, sorry, the stash list. We'll see. All right, 3 decks left in here, and then I'm going to cut this video, I think. So This is the Nameless one, Tarot and Oracle. I have the deck, which comes in this amazing bag. I got this in a beautiful trade. I tried to use it for the 78 Deep Challenge. I love the idea of this deck. I love the giant like grimoire guidebook that it comes with. But to me, I can't even get the cards all the way in the frame. To me, that giant guidebook is like the thing of the deck. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the images, and like this one would be one where I'm like, my focus is freaking out. This would be one where I'm like, oh, maybe I should keep this deck because I adore like Baba Yaga's little hut thing. I don't know. It's one of those decks where it's not really meant to be used for divination. It's meant to be used for magic. And I love that idea. However, I also know myself, and if I'm going to use a deck for magic, like leave it out on my altar, I want it to be a deck that I actually like performed a spread with. But I also feel like I didn't really give this a fair chance. Alright, this is going to go in the maybe pile. And what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to start, you know, I have those little cubbies. And I'm going to allow myself one cubby of maybe decks. And then I'm going to challenge myself to use them in whatever way, you know, like this one, use this one in magic, or use the art magic one in, you know, with my creative stuff or whatever. And if by whatever amount of time I decide, they still have not fulfilled their scratch ticket potential, then I'm going to pass them on. But I'm not allowed to take them out of the maybe cubby and move them somewhere else unless I'm going to give them away. And then maybe we'll revisit that maybe cubby. I also have to remember that I did that for myself, so that'll be a challenge. Actually, that's a good question. Do I put them in the maybe cubby? Or do I put these ones, like I said, in that special spot where I think I'm going to be more likely to use it? So, like, this could go on my altar, my magic altar. I might do that. I feel like that would make this deck really happy. Alright, the last two decks in this basket are ones that I'm still like getting to know and decide if I want to work with. This is the Archetypes deck by the WildUnknown. You guys know I have this like thing about the WildUnknown. I have like a bad taste after the Animal Oracle, but this Archetypes deck, for some reason this is like taking the internet by storm lately. So random how decks do that sometimes, but I want to use this deck more, but I don't because of the box within a box thing. I don't know why that makes it so that I don't use decks, but it does. And this thing is freaking huge. Like, this is a Los Caribbean tarot deck. This is that larger oracle size tarot deck. And this is the WildUnknown Archetypes. And the Alchemy box is the same way. So I'm not saying that I want to get rid of these by any means, and they're not really in the maybe pile yet, because the times I have used them, I have enjoyed them, but I need to find a better way. Like, maybe I need to put these big boxes away for now and just put them on the shelf like this together. Although, let's be real, like, this isn't that much more compact at all than the big box. But I could stack them on top of each other like this. I don't know how much space that would save me, though. I think it's literally about the same. It's the same size no matter how you slice the pie. Pretty much. Yeah, so I don't know. That's future Leanne problem. You don't need to see me work through that. If you have any suggestions, like how you work with these decks, you need the guidebook for these decks, you know, unless you like are really familiar with the cards because you use them a lot. We'll see. I don't like things out, and yet I need them out. It's like the complexity of my brain. My brain's like, I need everything out of sight in order to have inner peace. And then my creative part is like, I need everything out in order to see it and like use it. So still looking for a happy medium with that. But so in conclusion, we have the 2 WildUnknown decks staying. We have the Nameless one, Tarot / Oracle, in the maybe section. That's going to go either in the maybe cubby or on my altar to be used and revisited. Same with the Art Magic. This is going to get put in my creative drawer to see if we use it, and if not, I do have like a time when I'll have to reevaluate that again when that trade, not really a trade, but the thing that I'm planning on passing it on in, it's going to happen eventually. So that'll be my little thing for that. In the passing on pile, we have sassily yet somewhat regrettably the Rider-Waite Sparkly deck. Once again, the Squid Cake Marseille Tarot. This deck that I'm feeling like I might pull back to a maybe, but I'm going to try to push myself and let this go. In the continuing on with the keeping, we have the Modern Love Tarot minus all of its extra stuffs. And again, in the maybe cubby is going the Deep Place Oracle. Not bad. Not bad. Oh, it's so funny. I just realized there's 3 maybes, 3 goodbyes, and 3 stayings. How cool is that? And ironically, the rest of that basket is just me just like storing random empty boxes. So maybe I need to find another place for those, and that would free up some of my space. But thank you so much for joining me today, you guys. I hope that this was helpful. I definitely feel a lot more clear and concise about this whole process now that I've spent, you know, a whole month going around in roller coaster circles about it. So I hope that my talk at the beginning helped you if you're struggling with this as well, or at least gave you some fun things to think about or some entertainment. And yeah, I don't know if this will end in 3 parts because as you saw, I have several sections to get through. But this will officially be my final pass. So we'll get through that, and unintentionally, you'll get to see my deck collection of the moment, right? As we go through each one. So thank you so much, my loves. I can't wait to read your comments, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.